name's Katie Biffle, and as Karen mentioned, I'm with Moody's Investor Service, and I've been with Moody's 8 years now, just over 8 years. Had my anniversary a couple weeks ago. And what I do for Moody's, I'm a VP in our research group, and I'm responsible for a lot of different projects. You can kind of think of me as like an internal sort of consultant. I get put on projects. I either fix something that's broken, or I set up something new and hand it off to someone else. And so my job changes sort of year over year, which is kind of fun. Sometimes can be a little stressful. So I gave this chat last year with Excel. And what I want y'all to take away is Excel is not just if you are, in accounting and need to balance sheets, or actually, let me change the slide. If you need to balance sheets or only do charts and graphs and things like that. Like I use Excel for general like data wrangling, data cleanup, keep things organized, for like project plans to keep my team on track. There's a lot of different things you can use Excel for. So I understand that you might already be familiar with some of the things I'm going to cover today. You might already be a whiz, I don't know. Or, you may have never seen any of this before. So I do want to encourage, if you have questions, I guess, you can turn off your camera, wave at me, or through the chat, of course, and then Karen will keep an eye on the chat and will, can stop me. So again, Excel, well, I guess before I get started, any questions, or is there anything in particular y'all want me to cover? And I'll make note of it. Is there anything you're hoping to get out of the session just to make sure I include it? No?
No, nothing coming through on the chat. So yeah, there may be some questions at the end, I guess,
Got it.
halfway through.
So yeah, so feel free to. Yep, so feel free to put anything on the chat and we'll get started. So again, Excel is a spreadsheet program, and you can generate charts and graphs with it, which we may get to today, we may not. And of course, as I mentioned, you can use it for financial analysis and accounting. You can also use it for tracking, storing, sharing data sets. This is both text and numbers, and you can format them as you like. So so what I'll do is I'll walk through this, and then we'll go into the program. I've got a list of what I want to cover, and I'll walk you through those things one by one. So an Excel file is called a workbook. So, and within the workbook, there's different tabs. The default title, and I'll show you this in just a moment, when you open it, will be book 1, and that will be across the top. And then the ribbon is broken out into tabs. So I put a screenshot of my ribbon up here. You can see the different tabs. You'll see some that are specific to just Moody's. So if you work at a company and they've got different add-ins, they'll show up here in the different tabs. Like this is our specific chart colors and tables. Method is our content management system. So where our research is written, when you build a chart or something in Method, it'll automatically populate in our research. So that's what that's for. Acrobat is Adobe, obviously. And then financial metrics, that's our like scorecards and things that we use to calculate our bond ratings that also feed directly into the analysts' portfolios. So we also have the name box, which is right here, and then the formula bar, which is right here. So A1, this shows you can think of it like the address. So when in Excel, this is columns. So it's column A, B, C, D, etc. And then the rows are numbered. So if I said column B3 or cell B3, you go to column B, row 3, and it would be right there. So if you hear me reference an address, that's what I mean. The worksheet navigation buttons are along the bottom, and if you want to add additional tabs, you just hit the plus sign. So I won't spend too much time on this. We'll come back to it at the end, and I'll send you this. If you don't already have this presentation, I'll send it to you after. These are just some of my best practices. Some I will call out in the beginning, and you're going to hear me say it again, is save as you go. I've learned the hard way that if something randomly gets a hiccup or something, you'll lose your data and you don't want that. So I recommend hitting Control S, S like snake, Control S as you go. Now I just do it automatically. I don't even actually probably realize I'm doing it. And then Control Z like zebra, that will undo. And I'll show you how that works in a little bit. And for cells and columns and moving around, this just goes through some shortcuts. I'll come back to those later. Best practices on formatting, and I'll go into this in more detail. No spaces in file names. And that is because if you were ever to link to workbooks, which I don't think we'll get to today, but I'm happy to come back and do an advanced Excel session. If you're ever linking workbooks, which you can do, if there's a space, sometimes it'll throw errors. And let's say you change the space or something like that, it will kill the link and then your data set will be messed up. So it's just good practice. If you do need to put a space, use an underscore, and I'll show you that. And then I'll show you how to freeze the top row and things. That makes for easy scrolling. Whenever I do an Excel spreadsheet, I always format it pretty much exactly the same. So that way I know where everything is. It always looks good. And if my manager needed it sent right away, it's always ready to go. I don't have to go back and like scramble and format it. For data, so we'll go into this for sort filter, making sure that it's on for every column, and I'll show you what that looks like. You can also sort and filter on color, like cell text color. You can filter for just for the blanks, and I'll show you how to do all of these things. I'll also show you how to copy paste, because that's always a good one, and the difference between copy paste and cut and paste, which can get you into trouble if you're not paying attention. I would know. And then if we get to it, I'll show you how to do an easy auto sum at the bottom of a column. And don't worry, I'll send you all these things. What I'll also do is send you, so this is my Excel shortcut cheat sheet, and I'll show you what I mean by shortcut. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize all these, but you will figure out which ones are your favorites and the ones you use all the time. And those will just come easily, just muscle memory. Okay, so any questions before we hop into Excel? Before we get started. All right, so I've got a test data workbook. As you can see, this is my name up, or my file name up here. If I were to just open Excel, click on a new one, you can see, well, my computer would load. You can see I've had other workbooks open today, so that's why you see book 3. If it was your first one you've opened today, it'll say book 1. And again, just like other Microsoft stuff, you would go to save as, and we'll just put it on my desktop, and then we'll do test. And let's say I wanted a space, underscore data. And then you hit save. Anyway, so that's just how you do it. I'm pretty sure y'all might have already known how to do that, but I always like to show it just in case. So let's go through the ribbon really quick. So this is the home ribbon. So this is where if you want to change colors, you can do it here. Alignment. So this is where you can change, like if you, let's make this bigger so you can see. So let's say you actually wanted this in the middle. So this middle aligns it within the cell space wise, and this centers it. So that's just how you do that. I'll show you this in just a little bit, what number means. So these are how you format things for date, how you add dollar signs or GBP signs, things like that, for the different styles. So this is what's called conditional formatting. We may not get to that today, but at a high level, what that is you can have Excel automatically highlight things for you. So if I highlighted this, so I'm holding down my left mouse button. So if I highlighted this whole thing and I wanted to set, they call them rules. And if I wanted to set a rule to anything over $100, I wanted it to show up red. You could set that rule. So it's really helpful when you have to look at a big, big spreadsheet and be able to see something fast, like, you know, how many things are over $100. You could know just by looking like, wow, that's a lot, or hardly any. So it's just things like that. So for cells, you can either insert here, or you can highlight and right click to add, or you can go to insert here or delete the column. For insert, this is where you'll go to insert pivot tables, and I think we'll be able to get to simple pivot tables today. So a pivot table, what it does, it takes the data along the top, see here in your column names, and allows you to sort and filter kind of live. So you'll be able to see things by category. It allows you to count without you having, allows you to count. It allows you to do averages, things like that, without having to count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. So the other things that are in the insert tab, you can, again, these are my company add-ins. This is where you go to make your charts. And a lot of times for a data set like this, the chart you'll do will be like by year, right? It will be by the month, and you could say by month, you know, what's the profit by month? And you can have, you know, like a bar chart or something like that. For filters, this is what you use when you already have a pivot table. They're called slicers. And I'll show you that at the end. I won't show you that right now because it takes a little bit to set up. And then for page layout, I mean, this is just like Word, right? Where you have print layout. So we won't spend time on that today. So formulas. So remember I mentioned that your formulas can be as complicated as, you know, major accounting functions, but you could also, you know, I use like simple functions, right? That, you know, aren't accounting, right? And I use them all the time. So these are things like, it'll be sum or average. It'll be, there's a function called VLOOKUP, which means vertical lookup. And that's where you take, if you had two data sets and you wanted something from the other data set, and you had a column that's similar. So let's say you had a column of names and you want to bring the birthday in from the other column, you would use that name. So it would say Katie Biffle, and my birthday's over here, March 28th, in another spreadsheet. You could use my name as a vertical lookup, like an index, vertical lookup, and then you would tell Excel to pull in the birthday from the birthday column. That's how VLOOKUP works. It is a very, very useful function. I don't think we'll get to that today, so I'm happy to come back if y'all want and do a strictly like fan favorite formulas session if we want to do that. Okay, so this is formulas, and you can see, so if you happen to be in accounting, I am not, this is where you would find all your accounting. This is where you'd find your amortization, all of the accruals, things like that. These are the logical functions. So these are your if statements. This is where you would tell Excel if something equals X, then, you know, if it's the value, then pull back, you know, the year. So for example, I could tell Excel if in column Q, the value is January, give me the year. Or if the volume, or excuse me, if the value is June, what is the total profit? You know, sum the profits in column N only for June, the month of June. So they're pretty powerful as well. And again, this is all about making your life easier, right? I'm all about whatever the computer can do for me instead of me having to do it by hand. That's what I use Excel the most for. And again, these are the text functions. We probably won't have too much time to go through this today, but this is where you can, let's say you had spaces or something after a word. So if it said like January, and you go up here and you click in the formula bar and it actually had a space after it. See how I added a space? That to Excel is a different January than the January below it with no space after. So if I were to put a pivot table on this, it would give me two different categories of January. So that's how sensitive Excel is to spaces. It is also sensitive to capitalization. So just keep that in mind. So that's why it's important that your data be formatted well and formatted. What's the word I'm looking for? Not seamlessly, a different word. It'll come to me. Make sure everything is the same, whatever that word is. I forgot. Okay, so this is the formula tab, and what I want to stress is I suggest you go in and play around with it. That's how I learned a lot about Excel. We won't go into these. I've actually never used the trigonometry functions, to be fair. You'll use these if you were doing, math or statistics or something like that. Okay, so then for the data tab, remember I mentioned that you can connect workbooks. So this is where you would do that. If you wanted to see if there were any existing connections, you could click on queries and connections, and it'll pull up the box. And there shouldn't be any. I might have some other stuff open that might be open. But yeah, so this is where it would show up if, like, for example, if I had this connected to another spreadsheet to pull data in, right? Because sometimes it's too hard to have all the data in one spreadsheet. It can be kind of slow if you have a bunch of data. So if you're connecting them, this is where it would show up. And then on sort and filter, so we'll go through this in just a moment. And then some data tools. I'm hoping we'll be able to get to this today, which is remove duplicates. I use this all the time. So let's say you got a list of emails, right? And someone sent it to you in Word, and it is, 150 people long, and each person only needs to get one thing. But for a fact that there's duplicates, like, there's some things are listed more than once. You could drop it into Excel, use remove duplicates. It would get rid of the dupes for you. And then you could go do what you needed to do. So it's pretty helpful little trick. Okay. So review, this would be if you had to add a comment. Let's say you were sharing this document with someone. I could type it in here and it'll show up like a little purple little triangle. That's something you could have figured out on your own, I think. And again, this is view. If you want to do page break preview, this is just like Word. The developer tab. So this is if you were doing macros. And I'll just tell you what a macro is. We won't do any macros today. So let's say there's a spreadsheet that you're always having to download from an internal database, internal program, and then you always do the exact same thing when you open it. Let's say you always change the top row to be blue with white text. You always change column O to be full date, something like that. You can record what's called a macro, and a macro is it's a set of steps that you do over and over. So what you don't realize, you may not have known, is when I'm clicking around doing and editing things, behind that, the computer is doing what's called Visible Basic for Applications. That's VBA. And that's essentially the code that Microsoft uses for Excel. And what you can do is if I was to hit record macro, it would literally record my mouse clicks, and then I save it. And next time I open this spreadsheet and I hit run macro, essentially hit play, it'll do it all for me. So I don't have to do it myself, which is pretty cool. It's really helpful when, you're doing the same things over and over, and it's a lot of formatting steps. And maybe, let's say there was multiple tabs of data on this. Let's say you had to edit every single tab, it'll do it for you. You just have to do it once, record it, it'll do it for you. So macros are pretty helpful, and everyone is sometimes kind of scared of them because you're like, I don't know, it's code. But it's not like you have to edit the code, right? It records it for you. You can see the code if you wanted to see it, what it looks like. Maybe if we have time later, I'll just show you. I can show you quickly. So these are our Moodys charts. If you work somewhere, more than likely they have like a house standard of what they want everything to look like. This is a macro plugin that I use in my day job. We won't go through that. And again, these are our in-house things. Okay, So that's enough going through so that's the ribbon. So now what I'd like to do is just some best practices around formatting. So remember I mentioned I always format my Excel spreadsheets exactly the same. So as you can see, and what I want to call out is always take a look at your headers. Be like, okay, so that name, email, and I pulled this off the internet. I don't know what any of this data is. Name, data, segment, country, product. Okay, that all looks right. Units sold, that looks normal. But you can also see, for example, sales. That should probably be a currency, right? You can see the data type is general. And what that means, that's just numbers. You can also see same for COGS and profit. I forget what COGS stands for. Y'all probably know now that because y'all are still in school. I forget what that stands for. It's an accounting term. Forgive me. And then date. You can see date. You're like Katie, that doesn't look like any date I've ever seen. Like, what are you talking about? So Excel reads date. This is called a serial date. Computers can read it. We obviously can't. So what you need to do is first thing we always do is make sure our columns are equal. See how month is cut off, gross sales cut off, manufacturing's cut off. So what you can do is I'm holding down my left mouse button. So you highlight like this. And a little trick is it's called auto fitting. You can double click, see how my arrow turned black right here up between H and I, and it has two arrows like going out to the side. You can double click and it'll auto fit your columns. So you can go through and do that. You can also, there's a shortcut to do them all at once, but we'll just for sake of y'all seeing it, we can go through each one of them like this. Is that everybody? Almost. There we go. So now you can read every header. Now, what I suggest you do, and again, this is just to keep everything easy to read. So highlight everything, and you go up to the fill and you make it a darker color, fill it with a darker color. I like to use dark blue, and then I like to make the text white. There we go. So when let's say you had to print this, it'll print and you can read it. I don't recommend using a dark font on a light background. Sometimes that's hard to read when you print. It might look okay on the screen, but you know how printers are, they're pretty terrible. So I recommend doing that. What I also recommend now, so see when I scroll, the headers went away. That's annoying. So if you were trying to like read this and scroll down, you're like, oh wait, what was this column again? You won't remember. Well, you might remember, but you know, it's easier to have the header up there, right? So what you do is you highlight the top row and then you go to view, the view ribbon, and then you go to freeze panes. Now, you can see what it does. See in the blue where it says freeze panes. So if I'll show you what each of these does. I always do freeze top row. Now I do the shortcut for it, and I'll show you how to figure out the shortcuts in a minute. Or you can just come click on it with your mouse. So I'll show you what happens. So if I freeze the top row, now when I scroll everything, my headers are still at the top. So it's easy to read. If I want to, remember I mentioned freeze panes. So let's say if I scrolled right, I wanted to be able to see their name and email. So I'm going to go to C2, remember address C2 of that cell. And then I'm going to do, I have to unfreeze it first because I got the top row. And then you do freeze panes. Now, when I scroll, see how their name and email stayed there. So it's everything to the left of where you are and the top row when you scroll. So if I go right, see, I can still see the top row and I can see their name and their email. This is most helpful when you have a gigantic, like the workbook isn't that big. Like, but if you had, let's say what you wanted to see was all the way over here, this helps. So you can freeze it at any point that you want. So if I just wanted to see the name, you can do freeze panes and same vibe. See? You can also move it further down. So let's say I wanted to do it here. freeze panes. See, when I scroll, see, Maybell and above isn't moving. And when I scroll to the right, it's the same that it was before. So see how it's only moving from row 18 down. So this is helpful if you had a big block of, you had something formatted that had a big block of text up here, like with instructions, for example, that said how to use your spreadsheet, things like that. And then you could just scroll below, right? Anyway, I always, at least the base is I just definitely freeze the top row because it makes it easier to navigate. So after that, now that we've done that, I always like to make sure that things are formatted, like numbers are formatted correctly, etc. So let's go back to our home. Now you can see, so name is currently set as general. You could go set it as text. It's not really that necessary. You just leave it as general. And same for email, you can leave as general and these other text fields as well. So if I go over here, see, let's go to units sold. So a unit is a count of something. It's a number. So see here, when I go up and look, it still says general up top. So we need to change this field to be a number. So what we're going to do is we are going to highlight it all. So I've got my left mouse button. We're going to scroll all the way down to row 500. And we are going to turn this. We're going to click on the drop down and make it a number. So you can see how it added decimals because there were decimal points there. So if you wanted to include decimals, you could, or let me show you how to take them off. So see right here where it says increase decimal. So that's going to add decimal points. So let's say you had, pi on there. It'd be like 3.14, yada, yada, yada. And you could expand that or lower it down. Or let's say you don't want any decimals. It'll round up. See how that one was 0.5? It will round up. So just keep that in mind. So let's keep it clean, no decimals. The manufacturing price, again, so a price, that is currency. So let's make that, let's highlight. So what I did, I just did a mouse shortcut. Let's do it again. So to highlight the whole column, you do Control, Shift, down arrow, and then let go, and it'll highlight everything for you. So let's make this currency. So there we go. So now we have currency. Let's leave it with the decimals because it's in pounds. Let's scroll back to the top. So let's do the same for sale price and gross sales. So since these both need to be currency, what you can do is you can highlight two columns at once, like that, and then hit Control, Shift, down arrow, and it will highlight both of these columns for you. And then you can change to currency on both. So it's much easier than doing one at a time. Same for, let's see, discounts. Is there anything in discounts? Yeah, so we got to make this. So there is, see, it looks like zeros, but if I scroll down, see how it also needs to be in currency as well. So let's, and so does sales, COGS, and profit. So let's go 4 columns at once. Control, Shift, down arrow, and let's make this currency. Boop. There we go. And then let's go to date. So remember I said Excel can read this even though you can't. So what we need to do is we need to change this to be date. So let's highlight it, Control Shift, down arrow. So there's different ways you can present date in Excel. So you could make it what's called short date, which is with the hash marks. Keep in mind, this is probably written in United States, so it's month, day, year. So just keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure. Well, it's all January, so this is a bad example, but so this is written. Oh no, it's written European style because it's month name. So it's day month, year, how you do it. Okay, how we do it here in the UK. You can also make it do long date. So let's say you want to see everything. You can do it like that. So let's leave it like that just for, or let's change it back. So we've got the month over here. So let's change it back. Short date. So month number. So you can do this with a calculation. But for these purposes, let's say we don't need this column anymore because we already have month name and we've got the full date. So I think we're okay. So let's practice deleting a column. So see how my arrow changed to a black little down arrow next to the P up top. So if you left mouse button, right click and click delete. So you deleted that column. Then for year, see how we're getting this error. So this said the number in this cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. So that, I got this off the internet, so who knows how this was formatted before. So what we need to do is change this to a number field. So let's highlight everything and make it a number. So I'm still getting errors on some of them. Let's see here. Convert to number. It's annoying. Highlight everything again. It should be number. Still getting errors. This is what happens when you steal stuff off the internet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste. How to fix something like this is cut and paste. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to paste it as values in another sheet and bring it back. So to cut, so when you cut something, you're removing it from the spreadsheet. So I'm going to right click and click cut. So when I do that, you are going to see it disappear. So let's cut. So see how whenever you cut and paste, you see this, it starts moving around. So let's go here. And then I'm going to see up here in the left-hand corner, I'm going to paste, and I'm going to paste values. Here we go. So then, let's change it to number. I'm still getting an error. What is the deal? Let's see, I'm going to highlight the whole thing and do convert to number. There we go. So I had to highlight the whole thing and convert it to number. Sometimes with data sets, they can get randomly corrupted. And considering I stole this off the internet, who knows how it was formatted before. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste it back into my data set. You notice I did not change the order of anything. So hit Control C like cat. And I go back. You see how it's gone? Because I cut it. Make sure when you copy paste, you are back exactly where you started. So I need the top to be Q2. If I were to copy paste this, let's say I wasn't paying attention and I started copy pasting at Q183, and to paste, it's Control V like victory, or you can right click and click paste. Just hit OK. Well, tell me it's not the same side. Well, bad example because Excel is stopping me from doing what I wanted to do. You have to highlight the whole where you want to put it. Let me get it again. This is what happens when I use my mouse. I haven't used my mouse in a while. All right. Control C. There we go. Control V like victory. So Excel stopped me from making a mistake. But I always recommend you double check it yourself. As you can see now, it's general, which is fine. You can also make this a number. So let's highlight everything and make it a number. So let's do Control, Shift, down arrow, make it a number, and get rid of the decimals because it's a date. So now, as you can see, this is much better formatted than it was. Now it makes sense. Now we understand profits, etc. What we also want to do is make sure that everything is even in the cells, right? So you can see we kind of messed around with the top row. To reset it, double click like that. I'll do it again so you can see. So let's make a couple of them kind of ugly. So see how now it's kind of uneven. You're like, oh, that looks really bad. So you can highlight the whole thing. And to do that, you click see up here in the corner, the very, very, very top corner next to A1. And then you can double click like I did with the columns. That's called auto fitting. It'll auto fit it for you. Let's see how 1619 is still in the middle. We want this column to all be right aligned for a reason that I just made up. And then go see how it says alignment right here. Align your content to the right. Let's click on that. So now when we go back up to the top, it's all on right align. Let's say we want country and product and discount band to be centered. So let's go to center align, just because you like the way that looks. And then I also recommend highlighting everything and putting it in the center of the cell. So what this means is, so let's put everything, let me show you what I mean, so you can just see it move. So highlight everything. So if I want everything in the middle of the cell, see how it moved. If I wanted it on the bottom of the cell, it would look like that. If I wanted it on the top of the cell, it look like that. I always put everything in the middle, unless I'm making like a dashboard or something and I want to be able to stagger text or something like that. For just general practice, you can put it in the middle. So now my entire spreadsheet looks pretty sharp. It's all ready to go. Again, Control S, like snake, is save. So that's Control S. So that is best practices for formatting, and how to, and again, it took me, 10 minutes to walk you through that, but if this was you doing it on your own, you'd be like, bam, 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 just put it in there, how you like it. Now let's do sort filter. Now, sort and filter is very powerful. Sort and filter can also ruin your day. Okay. So when you sort filter, highlight the top row. Like, let's say you only, well, actually, these aren't all centered. That's bothering me. So let's center everybody. There we go. So then you go to data and then you go to filter and you can see these little arrows that showed up. So let's make this guy bigger so we can see everything. So now you're like, oh, that's still at the bottom. Let's put it in the middle. That looks much better. Let's say you only want to see discount band high. So what you would do is you would click on this down arrow, unclick, select all, click on high, hit OK. So, and if you want to see how many that is, if you look to the bottom left corner, see very, very, very far down here, it says 45 out of 500 are high discount band. Now, what I want to stress is if the filter wasn't on for every single sheet, or excuse me, every single column, and you filtered this and then moved stuff around, your data will be scrambled and you won't be able to get it back, right? So I want to show you just what that looks like. So let's say, let's turn off the filters here. Let's go to data, filters, turn them off. Let's say you weren't paying attention, you only highlighted those. Now, watch what happens. So if I did discount band high, now stuff aligned that wasn't there with it before. And you can get in big trouble. So make sure, like, and then if you were to copy paste this, you were to highlight and copy paste or like cut paste, it would mess up your entire data set. So please, please, if you use sort and filter, make sure it is on for all columns. So we're going to undo, we're going to hit Control Z like zebra, and we're going to undo that. Undo. If you ever, I use it all the time. If you ever do something, you're like, oh no, I'm not sure what I clicked on, just hit Control Z like zebra. You can also hit undo up here, and you can see if you click on that, all the things you want to undo. All right, So let's turn this back on. Filter. What's cool about sort and filter is you can also filter by text color. So let's make, I don't know, let's just make these guys purple just for sport. So let's go color them purple. Now I want to see where it says filter by color. When I click on the down arrow, filter by purple, it only gives me the purple ones. This is helpful if you had classifications for certain things. You could filter by that, or you could filter by automatic, and that's black. That's the auto text color. What else I want to call out is see how you see the numbers here are now light blue, or actually that's like dark blue. That means a filter is on. So if you ever get and this right here, this little down arrow next to the filter also means a filter is on. So if you ever get a workbook, you should never really get a workbook that arrives with filters on unless they've specifically said, I've filtered this spreadsheet for you. It's just kind of like good practice. Always check if filters are on, because if you copied and pasted stuff out of here, or cut paste stuff out and then turn the filters back on, it would like data would be, there'd be chunks missing, right? So just keep that in mind. So that is sort, or excuse me, that's filter. If you want to sort, so let's say you wanted to sort by first name, ABC order. So you would do you could either do A to Z like that. And remember, because we turned on the filters for everybody or every column, the whole spreadsheet will resort. Let's turn let's turn these off so you can see what happens. I feel like the new versions of Excel may have fixed this. It might override the humans in this situation and sort everything. I actually haven't tried this in a while. So let's turn the filter on. Why won't it let me turn on just for one? Yeah, we'll see. So Microsoft Excel kind of stops you. You can't filter. Here, let's do 2 of them and see what happens. All right. So now I'm going to sort here, and I'm pretty sure these guys over here aren't going to move. See? Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. So see, this used to be Aaron. This is Aaron's, that guy who's up top. This is his data in the top row. This is not Zena's. So if you did this and didn't realize, you just scrambled your entire workbook. So please, let's undo that immediately. Please keep that in mind if you are sorting and filtering. I know you're like, Katie, you sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you, if you're not paying attention, you can really get yourself in a pickle. Okay, so that's sort and filter. Any questions before we move on? Anything come through in the chat, Karen? Or is this what you want to be learning, or is this too basic?
We haven't got anything in the chat yet, Katie.
Okay, so everybody's okay. Yeah, if y'all want something different, please do tell me. All right, so now I think we've got time. Let's do, I'll show you that remove duplicates trick, which everyone always loves because it really helps. So let's say you get a list of countries from your boss. We're going to make up this scenario. So I'm going to copy this entire column. So I highlight the column. I left arrow clicked, Control C like cat. Let's go put it in sheet 3, Control V like victory to copy paste it over. Now, you want to know just which countries are in here without counting them, without, going through by hand. So what you can do, highlight the column like that. Then go up here and do remove duplicates. Click on that. You have a header. So if you click this off, see how it includes country in the duplicates. So your data has headers, your column is country, and then you click OK. It removed 495 dupes. and now only 6 remain, or 5 remain. So you've got Mexico, France, Canada, Germany, and US. So those are the 5 countries that this data sheet or this data set covers. So again, this is a super helpful trick. I actually use it all the time. You can also, another trick is this thing called text to columns. I haven't used it in a while. Let's see if I can remember how to do it. So what this does is if you wanted to take this and then make them column headers, so you highlight it like this and do text to columns, click next, finish. Let's see. Why isn't it working? Oh, there's something behind this dodgy spreadsheet that I stole off the internet. All right, so ignore that. There's some formatting behind the spreadsheet I can't undo, so just ignore that I did that. But what this would do is you would highlight this normally, and then it would populate. So if you wanted, let's say this was super long, like this was like 500 rows long, you could then flip it and it would make columns out of it. But bad example, so just ignore that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to do a pivot table. So remember, I said a pivot table is a very easy way to crunch your data. Let's say your boss called and wants to know for March how many sales or what was the gross sales in March, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So what you do is you use a pivot table. So let's click on it like this, highlight everything, make sure that, or you can also highlight just the data set. You can do that too. Shift down arrow. And then you go to the insert tab and then you click pivot table. So here's your range. So Excel, when you highlight something like this, they call it a range. So when and you can also name the range if you wanted to. I could name this range, test data or whatever I wanted to name it. But for these purposes, we're just going to leave it no name. And then I always put it on a new worksheet. And remember, worksheets are tabs, or different tabs within a workbook. The workbook is the bigger thing. All right, so let's do new worksheet. Click OK. So now you're like, oh my gosh, Katie, what is this? So what I want to stress is remember our column headers. These are now the pivot table field, right? So what you do is if you wanted to see sales by month. So let's scroll down. Remember, we have month names. You can make month name rows. See how now you're like, oh, there's all my months. And even though there were multiple months, right? That spreadsheet is 500 rows long. But the months that are included in that column are only January, February, March, April, May, June, July, etc. Right? It didn't list 500 of them because there's not 500 of each of them. There's only one type. There's only one January. There's only one February. And remember, though, I said if one of these would have had spaces after or would have been lowercase, it would have given you another value. So keep that in mind. That your data is all standardized. So if you wanted to see the gross or the sales, you put, so there's the total sales. You can also put them in values, and that gives you the sum of the sales. So see what I did? So that gives you, this gives you like the count of them. If you want to see the values, you put sales in the values column down here on the right. You can also change this to say average. So if we want to say, you go to value field settings, you do average. I don't know why you'd ever want to, just an option. You click OK, see, and there's the average. So the average sale was 15,000. And you can also format this like you format the regular spreadsheet like we did before. If you wanted to see, so that's let's turn it back to sum. So remember, you click on the down arrow, value field settings, and then go to sum. If you want to see the count of sales, it's still formatted as currency, but it would be 21. There were 21 sales. So that's how you do that. So let's turn it back to sum, just so it looks nice. So let's say you also wanted to see who sold what, right? So let's go to name. If you put name under month name, you can see Ada had 5,000 pounds in sales. Anime had 9,000 pounds in sales. You can also say, all right, so let's say you don't want to see name anymore. You want to see it by country, go like that. You can also add what's called a filter. So just remember how we just sorted and filtered on the big spreadsheet. You can also sort and filter on a pivot table. So let's say you want country to always be a filter. So we're going to move it up here to the filters and watch what will happen. So when I hit the down arrow, these work just like the other filters. Click select multiple items, unclick all, and let's say you only want to see the sales for the USA. See how that number changed, right? So this, if your boss were to call you and like, what's the sales for USA? You can do it here. What you would do to do it here is you would filter by country, USA, then you would highlight sales, all of it, and you can see the sum down here. See it in the bottom. That's another kind of cheat if you're ever like in a hurry. And it also gives you the average. It also gives you the count. There were 103 sales in the USA last year. So that's a good way to do it by filter, or excuse me, by country. You can also add back the name. You can go here. You can also flip these. So let's say you wanted to see names first and then the months. You could do it like that. You could also then put the segment down here. So for government, you could also add segment. You can add two filters. So for USA, for we're going to make it up for enterprise. Click OK. See how the numbers changed. So that's another way to do it. You can also change the pivot table design. So let's go up here up top. See where it says design. You can change the report layout. So there's no, I don't have any good advice on which ones to use which. You just click on it until you like the way it looks, basically. So click the down. So we're in compact form right now. Show an outline form. See how it moves. So it's kind of a little easier to read depending on how you like things. Or tabular form, which I think looks a mess. You can also get rid of the subtotals. So do not show subtotals. You can keep subtotals or show at the top, or you can show at the bottom. It's just whatever you would like to do. So so I know we're almost at time. So that's a pretty basic overview of pivots. You can also, so let's say you got this all set up. Let's just do name and sales. So let's say you then had to like email your boss for enterprise sales in the USA. You could literally just highlight this. Oh. Undo. Thank you. I know. Thank you. You can highlight this like this. Control C for cat. And you can paste values. So here's paste values. What paste values does is it gets rid of all the formatting. So if I were to paste just regular, it would come in looking like a pivot table. And you're like, I don't want to copy a pivot table. I only want to copy the data that's there. So let's undo that. And then paste values. You can also paste values and number formatting, which will keep the dollar signs and stuff. See, there you go. So you could send that to your boss and say, hey boss, for enterprise sales in the USA, the grand total is 3,523,000. And then let's say he or she also asked, well, who had the highest number of sales? So then all you would do is let's put a quick filter on this. And we don't need to add this in the filter. Quick filter. And then we sort largest to smallest. So grand total is going to float to the top, but then it's Armando. If you ever have to do things fast, that's a good way to do it. You could also do it on the filtered sheet, sheet 1, right? So remember, we have this filter, the USA. And then you can sort largest to smallest on sales. So Farah had a one-off sale, of 1 million, like that's huge. But then you could say, okay, for enterprise, Armando had a high sale of 430,000. But then Michael, was right behind him. So if Armando had multiple sales in a pivot table, they will have all be summed up. In this example, he just happened to have one big sale, right? But a pivot table sums up everything for Armando. So we're just about at time, so I want to pause there. I know that was a pretty fast overview, so I want to pause. Any questions or anything that wasn't clear? Or anything else you want me to mention quickly? No? Quiet today?
There's nothing coming through, Katie.
Okay.
I mean, you told us absolutely loads there. It was amazing. And I think if you could, like you said, if you could share the slides, and I think you had a little a tip thing, didn't it? If you send them to me, everything that you want, and then I can forward it on to the students. That was great.
It's in that deck. So the deck in the main deck I sent Karen, they're in the back. So it's already in there.
Oh, they've got links, have they? Okay, right. That's no problem then. Yeah, I'll forward that on. There's a couple of people typing now.
Okay.
Can you see the chat, Katie, now, or do you want me to read it out?
It says meeting chat is muted. Yeah, I think. Oh, wait. Let's see. So Caroline will give a quick listen. You may have to read it.
Okay. Yeah. So we've just got Caroline, who's actually one of my colleagues at Career Ready. Really useful session. I will be re-listening to go back through a few points and to practice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so again, like I said, happy to come back and do a formulas deep dive or something like that, because it's pretty powerful. And I understand that, the formulas can be intimidating, but once you figure out how they work, it's not hard.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you, Katie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So students, this is your last chance. If you've got anything to ask, just put your hand up or take yourself off mute. But otherwise, we will be sending out the resources, Katie's resources, to you.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy. I hope y'all are enjoying your summer. And yeah, maybe we'll chat soon.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for your time, Katie. Fantastic.
Bye, guys. Great to see you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.